Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 6. For some reason I wanted to say 26. It's not episode 26. Episode 6 of the True Talks podcast. Before we start, just the usual. The video on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, is my own. But it has nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about, so if you want to just turn the video on and play it in the background, that's up to you. It will never correlate. Like, you don't need to watch the video to understand what is going on in the background, which is nice. These podcasts are going to be kept at like an upper PG to pushing PG-13 sort of rating. I'm never going to get too explicit on here, but I feel like that's necessary for me to point out, like, may not be for all audiences, but we'll see. But yeah, so today, to sum up what we're going to be talking about, I finished moving. I'm at my new apartment, which is probably why I honestly am probably talking softer than normal, because I'm in an unfamiliar environment, unfamiliar area. So it's going to take some getting used to. I'll talk about that. First main segment we're going to talk about, I played Brass Birmingham. It's actually the most recent new experience I have with a board game, and I'd like to talk about it. Then I have finished the Pikmin 4 post game now, obviously on stream. For you, it's been a while ago. I'm almost caught up to where, I'm almost to the point where I'm going to start uploading, so I'm only 6 ahead-ish. But I'm going to be talking about Pikmin 4 post game and my thoughts on the game now that I'm finished with it and that sort of thing. The bonus segment, if you remember in the last episode, if you were here, I said that I was going to put out my full ride ranking list of Disney World rides that I've ridden anyways, and I'm going to finally get around to that this time. The last episode was just getting too long. And segment 3 is maybe a controversial take, but I'm going to talk about why I want a new traditional Zelda game and why I'm kind of tired of the big, massive open world mechanic, which I will explain and rationalize later. It's not that I think it's bad, it's just I prefer my regular Zelda games. But we'll get to that if you stick around to the end. So, my current event, like I said, I finished moving. I actually almost have everything unpacked here and organized, which is super nice. It's actually really unnerving right now. I'm going to get used to it, I'm sure, but I live completely alone, which I was used to kind of people coming in and out all the time, people roaming around in the kitchen or in the living room, even up until 1, 2 in the morning, where now it's if I hear a noise, I am immediately any small noise, I'm immediately freaked out by it, because it's I'm supposed to be the only one here. Yesterday, my clock fell off my wall. I had it hanging by one of those adhesive hooks, and really it's a pretty light clock, and it survived for I want to say 12 hours. And then it came crashing down in the middle of the night, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. It was terrifying, and I didn't even realize that that's what fell, so I was kind of scared through the entire night, because I heard something fall and couldn't figure out what it was, because I was roaming around in the dark trying to figure it out. Because the other thing that's really odd about my apartment is the light switches are in really inconvenient places. If the rooms outside of my room are dark, I have to walk across. There's not a light switch at both entrances. I have to walk across the entire room in the dark to get to the light switch for the room. And the bathroom and the kitchen both have the light switches in the middle of the room. There's 2 doors to get into both the bathroom and the kitchen, and the light switch is in the middle of the room. So it makes almost no sense. And even still, because I'm so used to it, I'll walk in and flick my hand against the wall as I walk through the door, because I'm used to there being a light switch right there, and feeling like that's where it should be, but it's not. It's it's actually almost hidden in the kitchen. It's almost behind the refrigerator. So yeah, it's an interesting place. like I said, still getting used to it. It's kind of a bit run down. It's not terrible, but the floors are like there's okay, so it's basically like 5 rooms ish. The 5 to 6, depending on how you count your rooms. Like you walk in and you're basically in kind of a dining room slash entry area, which is connected to the living room. It's literally just like an arch. The only reason that it would be like called a different room would be if there was like a curtain between them. Like it's not like a doorway, it's wide. So you walk in, there's kind of the dining room area that's also the living room, and it's just a massive rectangular room. That area has a wooden floor, and the wooden floor is extremely dirty and run down. And I ran a Swiffer through it, and it didn't help it really visually, but you pull the Swiffer up, and it's like black. Like it was that bad. Then the kitchen, if you're walking into the dining room through the front entrance, the kitchen's right to the left, which does have a doorway leading into it. The kitchen's really kind of cramped. There's hardly any counter space, really, at all to speak of. There's not a dishwasher, which doesn't really bother me because as one person, I wouldn't have probably used a dishwasher anyways. I prefer just doing my dishes by hand. What is kind of annoying though is the sink is like in the corner. So, I mean, it's nice because I will never have my dishes pile up because I probably won't, like, literally the sink is the only area that I can put dirty dishes. I can only put them in the sink. There's no other space. So, it's like I really can only fit in there probably 1.5 days ish of dishes, depending on how many I use. And that's also hardwood floor. The hardwood floor in there is a lot less crappy looking than the hardwood floor in the main room, but it felt sticky almost when I was walking across it, so that's a little bit off-putting. I did run a Swiffer through it there too, and it's a little better. Maybe you don't take me as a really clean, neat person, but in reality, I really am. But at the other apartment, I never really did it because my roommate really liked to clean, and I didn't want to step on her toes at all. So I just let it be and clean my room when it was necessary. Okay, so you're thinking about the kitchen. It kind of has, if you walk into the kitchen from the left, like going left into the entrance, if you take a right, then you're in the first bedroom, which is carpeted, which is really nice. The carpet is actually really nice in the apartment. Like, I'm actually impressed with that because, like, it's just a stark difference between the carpet and the hardwood floor. Like, it's obvious that maybe the bedrooms have been renovated pretty recently or something. That room was a disaster because that's where I literally just threw boxes and was like, I'll deal with this later. But I actually finished all of that today, and it's actually become kind of my board game storage slash nerd cave room. But then if you take a right coming into that room, then you're in the bathroom. And the bathroom is tile, as most bathrooms are. There is also a bar of soap literally fused into the shower. Like, it's like a bar of soap that's like almost gone, but it's like ingrained into the shower. Like, I would not be able to get it off unless I maybe chiseled at it with a knife. And my knives aren't that sharp, so I don't think it would work very well. Maybe if the shower softens it up a little bit, as gross as that sounds, maybe I'll be able to get it out eventually, but it's not a major, I don't put my hands there anyways, so it just looks kind of nasty. And then the bathroom connects the two bedrooms. Like, there's a door on either side of the bathroom, which is why I said it's weird that the light switch is just in the middle, because it would make sense for it to be next to the doors. But then the other bedroom coming across the bathroom from the board game storage nerd cave is my sleeping bedroom, which I have come to find now that there's not really an effective way to position my twin bed, or queen, or twin. Queen. I think it's a queen. Or full. it's a big bed, but I can't position it in a way that I can close both doors, which really unnerves me. Like, I know I'm alone, but something about leaving one of the doors open just really makes me anxious. And it really bothered me last night when I was trying to fall asleep, especially after the clock fell. But if I turn my, like right now, the door. Okay, so to paint a picture for you, you come across the bathroom, and then if you're coming out of the bathroom, you take a right, and then you're back into the living room side of the main, like, big room. So it's all one big rectangle where it's like the two bedrooms are connected. The one bedroom goes into the living room, the other bedroom goes into the kitchen, and then those are connected in a straight line. But it's just really unnerving that I can see the front door from where I'm laying in sleep. Like, I know no one's gonna come barging in when I have it locked, but it still just makes my skin crawl a little bit. But when I try to shut the door, it's like the door hits the bed frame, so I can't quite get it closed. And if I turned my bed, I would no longer have an easy, like, a convenient place to put my desk with my, like, my where I had my streaming set up before, where I have my monitor on one level and then my laptop Xbox Switch dock on the lower. That would not be able to be, like, in front of the bed anymore, which is how I had it at my other apartment, so that I could lay down and watch or play whatever on the TV still. I would have to move it somewhere where I wouldn't be able to do that, which I guess wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's basically I pick between that or having the door open. And for right now, I'm picking having the door open. Or I could just put the bed in the middle of the room. It's just really awkward how the room is set up, because it's like almost an entire wall is inaccessible, or like not usable, because like it's basically one entire corner of the room. I can't put any furniture there or like anything really, because the door that goes out to the entryway or the living room opens out that way, and the closet door also opens out that way. So it's like there's a very narrow, like when both doors are all the way open, like against the wall, there's probably about a 4-inch gap between them. But when they're closed, it looks like it's just massive unused space. So it's really annoying. But overall, I am impressed with the amount of space that I have here. I had no idea what the floor plans were or anything moving in. And I brought literally like everything I owned from my parents' house, like even like stuff from like childhood. And it's all pretty much tucked away. I do have a couple boxes of just random crap that has no real place right now, but that's because I only have kind of the necessary furniture, like desks. I have one like nightstand which I'm using as a side table in the living room with drawers for storage, but I need one of those like things with the cubes, like the little cube bins and cube holes to like store like more board games, but also like my amiibo and just random like World of Nintendo figures, stuff like that. I have all my amiibo just shoved in the closet in tubs because I have an incredible amount of them. But yeah, that's the rundown of my apartment. I know you definitely wanted to hear me ramble about it for 15 minutes, but okay. On to the first segment. I need to blow my nose real quick. Oh, the Kleenex is so far away. Hold on one moment. Ugh. Sorry, you probably didn't need to hear that either. I probably could have muted my mic, but whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so Brass Birmingham. I actually got surprised with Brass Birmingham. I have a group of teacher friends back in southern Minnesota, which, like, they are teachers at the school that I student taught at, and I kind of got in with them by playing games once in a while with them after school when I was student teaching. There was one time I didn't, maybe they could tell because I wasn't speaking as much as normal, but I was also shy in the early stages anyways, so maybe they didn't notice, but I was extremely sick and I came anyways because I didn't want to miss the opportunity to hang out with them after school, and we ended up playing a game for I think like 3 hours that day, and I could feel my ibuprofen wearing off. And I went home, and when I got home, I took my temperature, and I had a 103-degree fever. It was not good. Not a fun. Well, it was fun, but probably not ideal. None of them got sick, luckily. Um, but one of them actually gifted me Brass Birmingham. We had one last hangout. I think it was a week ago. Well, it was before I moved, obviously. I don't remember what day it was, but it was sometime last week. We all hung out one last time before I was going to move away, and one of them surprised me and gave me Brass Birmingham as a gift, which was really surprising to me, but I am super glad he did, and it was a really pleasant surprise. It's honestly not a game that was very high on my radar. Like, I probably, well, maybe would have never gotten it, to be honest, if I hadn't gotten it from him. And I'm really glad that he did because I really like the game. There's a few flaws that I have with it that I'll talk about later. But for those of you who don't know, it's basically a game where you're kind of trying to get ahead in like all sorts of different industries, like the coal industry, the iron, and then like manufactured goods that you can sell for more money and stuff like that. You're basically trying to be the most successful, whatever, business or whatever you want to call it. And it kind of goes through two phases. The first phase of the game is the canal phase, where you only have access to the rivers with the boats. And in that phase, everything costs less to build, but most of the stuff that you build in the canal phase will be wiped out in the railroad phase, which comes later. And that's why it's cheaper. It's basically to establish yourself in the beginning of the game when you're low on money. One thing is it's really hard to make money in that game. Like you build up your income so that you earn money every turn. But I honestly found myself, there's an option to take a loan from the bank. Like you can lower your income, I think by 3 levels it was, and you get $30, which honestly, in that game, $30 goes a long way. So I found myself doing that pretty often. There was a couple turns where I was like literally, I think I took a loan, then the next turn I spent like all of it, and then the turn after that I took a loan again, which maybe isn't the ideal way to play, which I'll get into later. But, well, actually I've kind of explained the premise a bit, and then like the end of the game is the railroad. The second half is the railroad phase, where resource management becomes a lot more important, because when you were building the boats, all you needed was money. Now when you're building the trains, you suddenly need coal, you need beer if you want to build multiple trains, and you need to have all the resources at your disposal at that time. And what's interesting is the fact that you can use other people's resources that they've built, but it in turn helps them. But it also helps you further your goal as well. But it's like maybe you want to watch out for who you're helping. Like if someone's ahead, maybe you don't want to build a railroad next to them because you're going to be using their coal to build it, and it's going to push them even further ahead. It's just interesting strategies with that, where everyone's resources are at everyone's disposal, but they're like using someone else's kind of comes at a cost to you. I do have a couple of, hold on one second. Okay, for you it was no time, but for me I had to pause and text someone back quick. But I was talking about flaws. The one major flaw that I had with the game might have came with the fact that we were all learning it for the first time. For one, it took us like an hour to read the directions, but that's usually how it is, so I can't give it a fault for that. The issue was just how long, especially towards the end of the game, everyone's turns got. and I know why they made it so that in the turn order you have the person who spent the most money last round goes last, and it goes in order of money spent. And maybe I should have strategized a bit more with that, but there were multiple times where I went first around, spent the most money that round because I had a lot of stuff I wanted to make sure I got done, and then went last to the next round, and it literally probably was like 15 minutes between that time. Like I literally was like sitting there waiting for everyone to take 2 turns before I got to go again, which just felt like an eternity. I don't know if other people have that issue with the game, and maybe other people's turns are sped up quite a bit when you all know what you're doing a lot better than we did, especially in the beginning. But it almost felt like as we got more acclimated to it, we took longer on our turns. Although, I guess partly, at least my turns were always quick because I would go first, and then because I'd go last to the next turn, I had all that time to plan what I needed to do next. So then by the time I got to go, unless someone took something that I was going to do, I I knew what I was planning on doing anyways, so I can just get it over with and be done with it. Anyways, it really was not something I expected to like because generally speaking, I way prefer like nature animal type based like theming in my games. Like that's why I really like Everdell. I really like Cascadia. Root, I really like that one. Just in general, that theming resonate. I always thought that theming resonated with me more, but that historical thing. I don't know why I worded it like that, but the historical aspect of Brass Birmingham actually was super intriguing and made it super involved. And I don't know, that it reminded me kind of Stone Age with the amount of like resource management there was within the game. But it was super fun. I definitely play it again. I don't know when I will because now that I'm moved up to International Falls, I have no friends. Like no exaggeration. I mean, maybe I do at the time of like this being posted, but it's kind of sad to say. But I literally have no friends here, so it's like if I'm gonna do something, it's flying solo. Unless, well, no, I did look and see if it was on Board Game Arena, and I don't think it is. So, yeah, I don't know. By the time I find someone to play with me, I'll probably forget. I was joking that with the guys back down south that I would bring it back over Christmas break and we could play it again then. And they were like, we'll have to take another hour to learn the rules because we'll forget it by then. And I was like, yeah, relatable. I don't understand how these big like name board gamers do it, like how they learn so many different games because rule learning is literally the worst part for me. Like playing a game, like no matter how well the directions are written, it always seems convoluted and jumbled in my head. I never understand it until I'm like probably a quarter of the way through the game when it finally clicks. Which is better than it used to be. I guess maybe it's just the amount of games you play. As you play more games, you get more used to like rules and like patterns within the genres. But like I remember it was the first time I played Marvel Champions. I didn't get it. Like it took me like the entire playthrough I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, and it was because I wasn't familiar with the whole like exhausting your card for a turn and then it gets brought back up the next turn sort of thing. I thought you had to find a card that would like say your character is now revived or like you flip your character vertical now. I didn't realize that in between every turn you unexhaust them, which makes sense now that I know that that's just a regular thing that's in like other games too. But playing it, I couldn't figure that out like when I was reading the directions for the first time, so it made It made it like well, yeah, it was unplayable because that's a major mechanic of the game. Like, there's no way you can win if you don't unexhaust your characters. But then I figured it out by watching someone else play, and then I got addicted to the game for a while and spent way too much money on it. So for a while, I had almost every character, but now I'm a little behind after they released all the X-Men characters. Sad day. But I'm going on a tangent now. I'll have to save Marvel Champions for another episode. Brass Birmingham, first impressions. It's a really fun game. It's really long, and like I said, it feels like a really long time between turns, especially if you're in the situation where you go first one turn and last the next. I mean, you can play to avoid that, but you also don't know how much... when you're going first, you don't know how much money the other people are spending either. And likely, if you're going first, you're going to want to be spending a lot of money. And that's probably why they balanced it that way. Because when you're going first, you have priority on everything, so you want to make sure you get everything that you want. But, I don't know. I really liked it. I would say it's probably a solid, 8, 9 out of 10 for me. It's kind of funny. I might actually make this a segment in a later video, but I saw someone on Reddit complain that they never see any board game reviewers give a score below a 7 or a 6. It's because for one, the major reviewers aren't going to waste their time playing a game they don't like multiple times. It'll maybe survive one play and then it won't come out again, and you can't really fairly review a game on the first play either. So when you're playing that high concentration of games, you don't want to waste your time with the ones that are going to be lower than that. But I feel like someone who's low-key like me, I might actually make a segment on a later podcast episode where I talk about games that I don't like, which maybe is a bit of a negative spin on things, but... Sorry. But I don't know. Maybe it'd be interesting to hear my opinion on games that I played, but it didn't click with me or resonate enough with me to make me want to play it again. We'll see. It's also hard, though, again, when I don't get to replay stuff multiple times because I have no one here to play them with. But, anyways, moving on to the next segment. Pikmin 4, my opinion on it now that I finished the post-game. The post-game was really strong in that game. I think it's better than Pikmin 3's. Well, Pikmin 3 doesn't even really have one. It's kind of like Pikmin 1, where it's you either collect everything or you don't. There's no post-game. There's nothing after you save Olimar in Pikmin 3. I think the side stories in the deluxe version are unlocked after you finish the main story, but I'm not positive on that one. But Pikmin 4, I wouldn't say the final area is any better than Wistful Wild. And it's not really fresh in my mind now. It's been a few, 2 weeks maybe, or 2 or 3 since I beat it. But I really enjoyed it. It's for sure one of the best games on the Switch. I don't think it doesn't beat Xenoblade. I just finished playing Xenoblade 1 for the third time, through someone else. I physically had my hands on the controller to help him in a few spots, but my brother finished his playthrough of it with me a few days ago, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that Pikmin 4 isn't a better game to me than Xenoblade 1. I would honestly, given the two options, play Xenoblade 1 again or play Pikmin 4 again, I would pick Xenoblade 1. Even though Pikmin 4 is the shorter, more replayable game, I would rather, I prefer the gameplay of Xenoblade. Even without the story, I just really like the gameplay a bit more. And that honestly goes... Well, I don't know if it goes for Pikmin 2. I still think Pikmin 2 is the best Pikmin game, in my opinion. I know it's been recently a big, major trend for people to talk crap about Pikmin 2. And maybe it's a newer generation of gamers that didn't grow up with it are speaking out against it, because honestly, I will say I understand the points that people make, and it's like when you aren't used to the way the traps work in that game, it can be kind of annoying. But I really liked how white Pikmin were utilized in the final area, like just how much they actually were used. I really appreciated that, and the fact that there was a another 100 purple Pikmin treasure was super cool. Um, there were a couple bosses that I was a little disappointed didn't come back. Like Segmented Crobster was one. Oh, that's really the only one that I can think of. Well, Segmented Crobster, Raging Longlegs, and um, Pileated Snagret. I didn't like Pileated Snagret, but I don't really like that the Snagrets are just kind of a joke now. Like it's even in Pikmin 4, I thought you would see more since they had the babies in the trailers. I thought they would be more prevalent, but there's literally one, and that's it. I didn't really like. Well, I was gonna say I didn't really like that the last cave was a boss rush, but that's not necessarily true. I don't mind that, like, inherently that it's a boss rush. I just think it was done really poorly. Like, none of the bosses were really that much more difficult than their other iterations. Like, I wish there was something done to make them a little more difficult. I think it was Emperor Bulb. There was a There was a couple. I'll say, like, the difficulty of the Empress Bulblax was perfect. I wish every boss in that boss rush was that hard. Like, what they should have done was for Man at Legs, made the arena have, like, the bars so Ochi couldn't come with you. So you had to fight the Man at Legs without being able to just get on Ochi and run, because Ochi just outruns the gun anyways. So you're literally not in danger of it. And similarly, the Smoky Prog. I know people have said that they lost like all their Pikmin charging with Ochi, but I literally did it first try and had no problem. They just went right on him and he died in about 5 seconds. So I don't know where people were getting that notion from, and if it happens, you can just reset and try it again anyways. It works. And it's because Ochi is so overpowered at that point in the game that there's nothing that the bosses can really do to him that will give you problems. I also did really like the Emperor fight. I think that was the only instance where he actually made water appear below him. I just wish it was done a little better, or like done in a way that forced you to use blue Pikmin. I know they already did that with the Man at Legs, but still, I think just forcing you to not use just reds or like use reds or purples would be helpful. Although I don't know if you go in with reds or purples anyways. I don't remember what what colors the game recommends to you. But like I said, the Empress Bulblax fight in that one is actually like kind of precise, and actually it was kind of difficult. I had to reset multiple times on that one, and I wish that they were all that hard, because that was like the peak of the difficulty of the game. I did have issues with the final boss, but it was only because I didn't know you could destroy the electricity balls. That was where I lost most of my Pikmin, was during that phase, because I didn't think you could destroy the electricity balls, and it was literally like fighting like some Dark Souls boss or like some crazy like bullet hell type thing where I had to jump between jump in the very small gaps between the electric beams and try to still avoid the dog. It was like impossible until I figured out I could actually destroy the balls. I don't think I would have had nearly the issues that I did had that been the case. There was also something that bothered me. Well, it just bothers me that I liked it originally, but I don't like it anymore. The limitation where you can only have 3 Pikmin on the field. I understand why they did it, because there's so many colors now that it would, like, it's like you're then dividing by what, like 7? It's the 3 or it's 6, because glow Pikmin don't count. three original colors: purple, white, or no, it's 8. Purple, white, rock, wing, ice. So 8. You're dividing between 8 Pikmin now. So it's like if you divide 100 evenly by 8, that's what? Like 12-ish. 12, 13 of every color. Which is not very many if you're splitting it evenly. But they could have just upped the limit. When we were getting more Flargix toward the end of the game, I really thought they were going to up it to like 150 or something. Because that was originally a GameCube limitation. I don't really understand why they haven't upped the Pikmin limit yet. It makes sense with them having so many colors. And I think that would have been a better solution than limiting you to 3 different colors. It bothers me, not because it ever becomes a problem, because they design everything to be only use the 3 colors that are recommended to you. But that's the problem, is that the overworld areas are not nearly as diverse in their puzzles because you are limited to 3 colors at a time. They made it so that there's like, oh, this is the blue Pikmin area, and with some rock stuff because you find the rock Pikmin here. Or the last area where it's like a lot of poison stuff and a lot of stuff the wing Pikmin are required for, and some purple stuff. It's like, it really created some flaws in the level design, I felt like. I really do like how the overworld looks, and I do like it. It just, like I said in the previous segment that I talked about Pikmin 4, it's so close to being perfect, it's literally on the edge of it, that the small things that lower it for me really bother me. And that's one of them, the 3 Pikmin limitation. Like, it's like, I understand their philosophy, but I think it limited the world design a bit too much. And caves as well, because it's like they knew you could only have 3 types in a cave, so they only put 3 different hazards in it. Whereas in Pikmin 2, it was like you'd go in a cave and there'd be a floor with like all of the hazards at once. Subterranean Complex and Dream Den. I do wish there was a few more traps. They kind of did it with the Submerged Castle equivalent, like the Water Wraith Cave. There was a few traps in there, I think, but it wasn't near the extent of Pikmin 2, and it doesn't need to be to that extent, but like, I kind of miss when there was like bomb rocks here or there that fell from the sky, or volatile Dweevils. Because there were volatile Dweevils in the game, but they were dangerous. Like, your Pikmin weren't fast enough to get away from them. You could get on Ochi and run, but that's besides the point. Yeah, for me, it's like, it's a 10 out of 10 game because it is really, really good, and it's probably one of the best games on the Switch. It's for sure top 5. It might be top 3. Well, no, it's not top 3 because Xenoblade 1, 2, 3. But it's probably top 5 for me. However, I can't ignore the flaws with it that put it below Pikmin 2 for me. However, it's probably going to be in my top 10, top 15 list when I eventually edit my top 100 game, or was it top 50? I think it was top 50. Top 50 games of all time list. I'll be doing that later this year, even though I moved away. I'm sure it'll fall at least in the top 15 for sure, if not top 10. It's just, like I said, the really small flaws really bug me because it is so close to being 100% perfect, like better than Pikmin 2, best Pikmin game ever made. And it just doesn't quite get there. But, anyways, next segment. Okay. The moment that probably none of us were waiting for. The final ride ranking for Disney World. I ranked 44 of the rides. A few of them I didn't rank because I haven't ridden them or I rode them so long ago that um, I just don't remember it very well. Like Dumbo and Magic Carpets of Aladdin, I didn't rank. I don't know why I ranked Triceratops Spin because I've never ridden that one either, but I ranked it probably just so that I could say that I ranked every ride in Animal Kingdom. But there's only a few rides that I haven't been on. Like those two are the major ones. I'm trying to think if there are any others like that I can think of off the top of my head, but nothing's really coming to me as of right now. For the most part, like shows are not going to be ranked. Like even if they're kind of ride-esque, like some people might argue that like Mickey's PhilharMagic or Muppet Vision 3D should be ranked in here, but I just think it's a completely different experience than if you're going on a ride. Like, yeah, you're being entertained, but it's basically like you're sitting in a theater watching a show. At that point, it's not like you don't move whatsoever. But without further ado, it's the same rides I ranked last time. I also realized I forgot to rank the Magic Teacups. I was going through my rankings and I realized that, but I added it in now. But what's interesting is at the end of this, I'll actually give my fun rating based on the rides, which is literally like the placements averaged out. Like I added up the placements of each ride in every park, averaged them out, and that was the fun rating of that park. And a higher one is better, to be clear, because I went from because I didn't know how many I had on the list, so one on my list was the lowest. But without further ado, the lowest ride on my list is Triceratops Spin from Animal Kingdom. It just, again, I don't know why I ranked it again, but it's lame. Like, from what people have said, it's literally just Dumbo / Magic Carpets in dinosaur form, and it doesn't really even give you a really good view of anything because Dino Land USA is kind of barren, to be honest. And I get why it's there because they are trying to make Dino Land USA into like a carnival, like county fair type looking area. But when it's literally the only ride, like I realized they used to have the mouse trap or whatever mouse type roller coaster there that kind of fit that as well, but now it's the only ride there. It doesn't really feel like it's not like your go-to attraction at Animal Kingdom whatsoever. It's just kind of lame. Number 2 overall, which might be a controversial pick, is Figment, or Journey into Imagination, I think is what it's called. It's just, I like it, and I'm not going to go very in-depth on these because I already talked about them, but in case you didn't see the last episode, or if you want to hear again, I'm going to briefly go over my thoughts on every ride. It's just kind of, like, as far as Disney goes, it doesn't feel, like, especially since it's the Journey into Imagination, it's a ride that doesn't feel very inspired. Like, it's one that could definitely use an update. Like, even if they went back to the original, I wasn't alive when the original was up and running, so I never got to see it. But from what I hear, it was quite the spectacle and quite a bit better than even the version is today. So it'd be nice if they gave a bit of a throwback to that. Ride number 3 is the Tomorrowland Speedway. I really, like, I wanted to actually ride this ride for nostalgia's sake when we went last time, or when we went last week, and I didn't get to. It was kind of sad. But it just doesn't feel like it belongs in Tomorrowland. Like, it's like, it was cool as a kid because it was like my first experience, quote, driving a car, and it feels like, for me, like in my mind, when I think back on the memory of riding that ride, it felt like I was in a race car, like driving around a racetrack, and I remember it vividly that way. Like, it's truly a fun experience as a kid, but like other people have complained, it makes that area just smell like gas. Like, they could at least switch to electric cars. Like, it's not very Tomorrowland of you to be just burning up fuel in the background. Um, but it also just takes up a lot of space there, and they had to shorten the track to fit Tron. Like, I think they cut the track in like about in half to put Tron in. I don't know why they didn't just get rid of it altogether and make room for something else to go there. Hopefully they do sooner rather than later. It just feels like a waste of space. Next, we have Nemo, which Nemo is just okay. It's a good ride to get out of the sun in because it's never that long of a wait. And it actually has a really cool queue. The queue is almost cooler than the ride. Just walk through the queue and be like, can I take the chicken exit, please? I can't handle Nemo. I just wanted to walk through the queue. Yeah, Nemo's a good one for kids, but it's like, it's one of those rides where you're facing one way the entire time, and it was like really low effort because it's almost all screens. Like, almost the entirety of the ride is based on screens. And from what I've heard from videos now, it started kind of the downfall of the IP overtaking of Epcot. It took over for the, I don't know what it was called. It's bothering me, but it was like an informational ride about like exploring the ocean, which is cool, but also, I don't know. I don't really. I'm kind of in the middle on the whole Epcot. It's not really a debate, but people complain that it's too IP focused and too IP heavy now, and they are changing the vision that was the original Epcot. But as a kid, I remember being bored on Spaceship Earth, other than the part where you can like create your future on the screen. And even like Living with the Land was never, it's one of my favorite rides now, but like as a kid it was kind of boring. Like, I think they need to, it's better that they find a mix of like a mix of informational and educational rides with the IP focused rides. I think that's the way to go, because like, even I noticed that with my brother. Like, I wanted to go on the land and he was complaining the entire time about how bored he was. So it's like, kids would rather ride something like Guardians of the Galaxy than Living with the Land, or an informational ride about the oceans that I can't remember the name of. Okay, but anyways, next on my list, number 5th to last, is the Barnstormer. Kind of a similar thing with Triceratops Spin. I understand why it's there and what the purpose is, because it's like, that area is kind of similar to Dinoland USA, where they're just kind of trying to recreate like carnival type area. But they kind of changed it. Like, when it was in its Toontown variant, you used to go through like Goofy's house, I think, or like the barn or something. I barely remember it because I was 12 when I wrote it. But then they changed it, and now it's pretty much just your average kiddie coaster with not really, there's no real, can I speak? There's no real reason to ride it, like, if you're over the age of probably like 11 or 12. Next is Carousel of Progress. And this is kind of where it crosses into the line of, it's worth your time to ride it once, but it's not like terribly re-rideable. Like, I really like Carousel of Progress. Again, it's a good way to get out of the heat. However, it is a very slow and informational ride. It's a classic, and it feels classic in like a nostalgic sort of way, even though it's not like I grew up with it. I was born in 2000, but it still has just a nostalgic feel about it, which I really like, and I hope they keep it. I don't think they would ever get rid of it because I think it's the only ride in Disney World that Walt Disney had like his specific hand was in on the development of it. Next, number 7. Where is number 7? Oh, Mission Space Green. Mission Space Green is fine. It's not as good as Mission Space Orange just because it's just a pretty low-key, what do you call it, simulator. Where it's, like, obviously not meant to be intense, and it's meant as an alternative for the people in the Orange Mission, or who don't want to ride the Orange Mission. I didn't realize that originally the two different missions actually were the same, like, script and same thing. Like, they both went to Mars. It was just the one didn't spin and use centrifugal force. I do kind of I kind of like that they're different rides now, though. Like, I never got to experience it the other way, but I like that they're different rides because I feel like the people who want a less intense experience are going to maybe like just being able to view the Earth and a relaxing ride. Okay, number 8. Back to Animal Kingdom for Dinosaur. This is an unpopular opinion. One of my hot takes, if you will. I'm not a huge fan of Dinosaur. I know it's supposed to be jerky, but it feels jerky in a, like there is definitely a difference between a smooth jerky ride and a jerky ride. Like, and Dinosaur is the latter, where it, like, feels like jarring almost how jerky it is. And I've only been on it once. I think I probably would have had more fun on it if I would have ridden it with people I knew instead of being the only person in my car. Like I was a party of one going on it with a bunch of a couple of random people. And I think I would have had more fun if I was with, like, family or friends. But I don't know. It wasn't overly exciting or anything for me. Like, obviously it's a thrill ride, but not in the same sense as like a roller coaster. And I get it, but I just didn't care for it that much. Number 9 is maybe another hot take, but Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run. This is one that a lot of people really like it. I've seen some mixed opinions on it. But it just feels really not worth it, and I don't understand why people wait so long for it when Star Tours is better. Like, Star Tours is just a more fun simulator to me. Like, there's the interactive aspect of it, but it's like some people will wait in line for an hour to just be the engineer. And it's like, you press a button and that's it. You're just kind of along for the ride. Same with the gunner. Like, it's like you have a bit more to do than the engineer, but it's really the pilots who are riding the ride in reality, where with, like, the full interactive elements, like, the other roles are so far downgraded that, I don't know. Which kind of sucks. Well, it still consistently gets high wait times, but I think in the back of my mind, like, wondering what's going to happen if people stop riding it. Well, it'll never, I'm kidding myself, it'll never slow down enough to where they can't fill the back slots. It's Disney World. It's not going to slow down that much. There are people who like it a lot more than me, but it just doesn't feel like a must-do attraction in my mind. It's cool, but I'd rather ride Star Tours, to be honest. And both times, I didn't even wait that long for Smuggler's Run both times that I did it. And I was the pilot both times too, so I really have no reason to, or no, like, excuses to be made for me. I had the prime experience both times I rode it, and I really was not overly impressed. And it was kind of difficult to control, too. Like, I'm no expert pilot by any means, but it just felt extremely sensitive to me. And, like, it doesn't give you a lot of warnings, like, especially the ups and, like, moving up and down. It's like, I don't know that we're, like, the inherent track is going up and I have to dip to avoid a pole that's going across the top of the ceiling. I don't know that we're going to be going up in that direction until we're, like, on top of it already. So it's like, I can't react fast enough to, like, you kind of have to know what's coming in order to move it the right way ahead of time. Okay, number 10, Soarin'. Another hot take. A lot of people really like this one, but I just think it's one it's relaxing. It's kind of fine, but it's just, you're literally just being lifted into the air and watching a glorified movie. And if you aren't in the, it's like you have to be like right in the center to not get the curvature effect. Like, you especially notice it when you get to the Paris scene and the Eiffel Tower looks like it's like bent slightly to the right or whatever. Like it you can definitely see the curve of the screen pretty much anywhere, and it's a little bit jarring to me. I don't know why, out of all places, they like to have the ride go. They thought that going to the most upright, vertically straight building, like, might as well have just done the Empire State Building or something. Like, it's like, you, like, if you're gonna do something vertical, you're really gonna notice the curvature. The wider scenes, you don't, like the scene with the elephants, you don't notice it quite as much there. It just feels kind of dated and past its time to me. And the fact that you see people's feet dangling in front of you too most of the time. Right after that is another ride from Epcot, Spaceship Earth. I think I'm going to talk a little bit less about the rides. I kind of forget that I already went in depth on them last time. Then number 12, well, in reverse order, you know what I mean. I explained that earlier. It's a Small World. Then right after it, another Magic Kingdom ride, Winnie the Pooh, which, if you remember my my ranking from last time, you'll know kind of about what order it's going to be, because I literally just took those lists and basically combined them and kind of compared, like, all of the rides that I had left in each park. Like, would I rather ride this, or this if I was asked? And kind of decided from there. What was I on? 12. Or 13. So I'm looking for 14. 14 is Three Caballeros, which may come as a surprise that I like it more than It's a Small World, but I like the music slightly more, and I just like the theming a little bit more. And I really like the Mexico Pavilion. It's probably, honestly, not even one of the coolest interiors in all of the parks. I think it is the coolest interior in all of the parks. That pavilion is amazing. Like, even, like, you notice things as an adult that you didn't as a kid. Like, you can really easily tell that Peter Pan's flight is indoors, even though as a kid, I swear I remember it being way more like you're outside. In the yikes. In the Mexico Pavilion, it legitimately feels like you're outside. 15, Jungle Cruise, which is a hot take, but I kind of explained my reasoning on that in the last one. So if you didn't see that, make sure you go and check it out. If you're shocked that my Jungle Cruise is in the bottom third of the list. Next is staying in Magic Kingdom, Peter Pan's Flight, another slight hot take. Number 17, a major hot take. I found out, like, the other day, Tower of Terror. I didn't realize people, like, say Tower of Terror is the best ride in all of Disney World. Like, it's a pretty popular opinion to have it in, like, the top 5 attractions in all of Disney World, and I just don't feel that way. Maybe it's because I wrote it too late to really have the nostalgia for it. The first time I wrote it was when I was 17, because I've never been really a fan of Power Tower rides. Like, it's like I still don't think I would ever ride a Power Tower, like just outside ride at like a fair or something. And maybe that's why I don't like it that much. But like, the theming is astounding. It's really really cool, but I just, there's multiple other rides that I would like. Tower of Terror sure is a must do once, maybe twice, but I don't think I'd do it more than that. I'm not like scrambling to get on it again. Number 18, staying at Hollywood Studios, Slinky Dog Dash. Then number 19, where are you, number 19? Going back to Animal Kingdom for Kilimanjaro Safari. And then, I really need to blow my nose. I keep forgetting I'm on recording and you could hear me, like, snorting. Sorry, I have a really bad cold. Number 20 is Living with the Land. I'm going to mute my mic quick and blow my nose. I thought I muted my mic and I didn't. Why did it not mute? I literally hit the mute button. The mute button's literally fly. I say I'm going to mute the mic and then I literally blow my nose right into it. I swear I pressed the mute button and it says it's muted and it won't work. Like, it's like the mute button doesn't work anymore or something. That's really weird. I've never had that issue before. I'm so sorry. Okay, 21, staying in Epcot, Mission Space Orange Mission. Number 22, The People Mover. Number 23, Kali River Rapids. Which, that one is one that I found out that people hate, which, I don't know, I just don't. Like, I realize it only really has one drop. And I actually found out that it was supposed to be, like, twice as long as it is now, but they had to, like, due to budget cuts, it had to be shortened. And it actually was supposed to have live animals on it, too. But it, again, due to budget cuts, that got cut. What am I looking for? 24. 24 is Under the Sea, Little Mermaid ride. Staying in Magic Kingdom, number 25 is Space Mountain, which is another hot take. People say that Space Mountain is, again, like, I've heard that people say Space Mountain is the best ride in Disney World, and again, maybe it's because I'm someone who hasn't, like, I didn't have the childhood memory of riding it. Like, I remember the first time I rode it being amazed, because it was one of the first roller coasters I had ridden on. And I guess part of the thrill happens because you're in the dark in space. But considering that, it just doesn't feel like, it's not that fast. I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. It must be personal preference. Next on the list, Test Track. Then a bit of back and forth, back to Magic Kingdom, Buzz Lightyear. And then staying in Magic Kingdom, this is the Magic Teacups, which I really like personally, just because I really have a lot of fun, like, going on it and spinning it as fast as I possibly can with my brother. And it's like an iconic thing for us that we do every single time that we go. So maybe it's the memory of doing it with my brother that enhances it for me, because I know for most people it's like a pretty, like, bottom quarter of the list attraction. I just really like it. I really like the fact that you can kind of choose your destiny with it. Like, you can choose whether you want it to be a thrill ride or not. Then we have Expedition Everest. And after Expedition Everest is Toy Story Mania, followed by Runaway Railway. I know I'm not explaining these whatsoever, but like I said, I went pretty in depth in the last episode on them. So if you want to hear my in depth opinions and you didn't see that, make sure you go back and watch that. Then I think I'm on 32. Yeah. Haunted Mansion, followed by Big Thunder Mountain. And then after Big Thunder Mountain, we jump back to Hollywood Studios for Star Tours. And then we go to Ratatouille, followed by Pirates. And then Frozen, which again is kind of a hot take I found. I think it's mainly the fans of Maelstrom that hate Frozen. And like I said this in the other one, so maybe I don't need to reiterate this. I do wish they built a new track because I think it's way too short. It doesn't really give the scenes a lot of room to breathe. The only one that really is truly, I don't want to make it sound like Pokemon, but super effective, is the Elsa scene where you're getting shot backwards. Not shot backwards, but you know what I mean. Like, that scene is really powerful, and it's the best part of the whole ride. But pretty much all of the scenes don't really have enough time that you spend in them. Like, it feels like a rush, like you're going from one area to the next way too fast. And it doesn't even give you a chance to, like, hear all of the song that you're listening. Like, you literally hear, like, 5 seconds of the song of the area you're in. But I still really like the ride, obviously. Then Seven Dwarves, followed by the Navi River Journey, and then Rock and Roller Coaster. And then Rise of the Resistance. And then Flight of Passage, followed by Guardians, followed by Tron. It's kind of funny how it worked out, but literally my top 4 rides are all in different parks. Like, my favorite ride is Tron. My second favorite ride is Guardians of the Galaxy. My third favorite ride is Flight of Passage. And then my fourth favorite ride is Rise of the Resistance. And then if anyone cares, I did add an additional Splash Mountain ranking. But I put like a half in there just so to show what it would be between. Splash Mountain would be ranked at 37.5, I determined, between Frozen, like better than Frozen, but not as good as Seven Dwarves. Okay, then the fun factor, which actually is really interesting. So these are pretty unbiased because I just added up the like placements that each of the rides in each park got and then divided it by the amount of rides. Just a simple average. So in last place, surprisingly, was Epcot, because I say Epcot is my favorite park, but that just shows how much I like just everything other than the rides at Epcot. Epcot got a score of 19.17. Then Epcot was followed by Magic Kingdom, which got a 22.29. Then close, like it was close between these two. Animal Kingdom was next with a score of 23 even, which happened probably because it has so few rides. It has 6, 7 rides that I ranked. Then Hollywood Studios got like in the top by a large margin, 27.5, which might be partly because I haven't ridden the alien saucers, which probably would have brought it down, because if you recall the list, there's only one ride in the entire in all of Hollywood Studios that I ranked below like 10th place. As a matter of fact, between like 0 and 30, there's only 3 rides in that threshold for Hollywood Studios, which is why it's so high. And I think maybe if I had ridden the alien saucers and I actually ranked that in there, that might have lowered it a bit. But then you also have to consider Magic Kingdom would have been lowered if I would have added Dumbo and Aladdin in as well, likely. But in case those like people were curious, I did put a with Splash Mountain ranking in there, and it actually, if I add Splash Mountain into the average, it puts Magic Kingdom's fun factor slightly above Animal Kingdom's with a 23.14. And the main reason that I did that is not because I'm like reminiscing and I can't get over the fact that Splash Mountain's leaving. It's because I doubt I don't think that Tiana's Bayou Adventure or whatever it's called, I don't think that ride is going to be any worse than Splash Mountain. I think it only has the potential to either stay the same or be better than Splash Mountain. So that's why I feel like it might be necessary to rank that in there. Time will tell, though. Okay, time to move on from Disney for a while and go to the final segment, Zelda. So, with Zelda, I should say, I do not dislike Breath of the Wild. I do not dislike Tears of the Kingdom. I think they are some of the best games ever made, period. What I'm saying is I miss a good old, you explore the world, you go in dungeons in sequential order, you get the item you need to beat that dungeon, and maybe to find a few secrets on the way to the next dungeon, and maybe, yeah, you go through your dungeons in sequential order, you get your stuff together, you go beat Ganon, or Ganondorf, and that's the game. I miss the straightforward, like, Zelda adventures that focused a little more on story. I know Tears of the Kingdom did focus on story. I haven't beaten it yet. I'll be honest, I kind of dropped it after I beat 2 dungeons. But I feel that there is a lot to do and a lot of potential for creativity in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, Tears of the Kingdom, it's crazy how much potential there is for creativity. But I just, for a Zelda game, it just feels like so much emphasis is put on the side content now rather than the main story, that the main story doesn't get a lot of love. Like, they did have real dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom, but the dungeons still felt lackluster compared to, like, so far I've beaten 2. I beat the Zora one and the Rito one. I wasn't overly impressed with either. And mainly just the length. Like, it was like I beat it in 30 minutes or less, including the boss. Which, like, thinking about some of my favorite dungeons in Zelda, like Arbiter's Grounds might take me like an hour. I mean, maybe less now that I know a little bit more what I'm doing, but like those Twilight Princess dungeons took a while to beat, and I really miss that feeling of actually going down and feeling like you were exploring a dungeon, not a small pirate ship, which I did like the ship because it kind of reminded me of the sand ship in Skyward Sword, but even the sand ship, which is one of the smaller dungeons in the main series, had more to do in it than that one. I don't know, that's my main complaint, is just that so much more focus is put on the side stuff now, which creates a lot of extra stuff to do. Like, it's just fun to wander around and explore in Breath of the Wild and the Tears of the Kingdom world. But I really am hoping that we get a new, like, traditional style Zelda game, and that's not just gone because of the success of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And again, this is not to say that I don't like them. I think they're good games in their own right, but it just, I just miss a good, straightforward, story-based, like, not story-based, like, Zelda's had a good story always, but it's nothing that's going to blow you out of the water. But, like, there's definitely more to, like, the story of Twilight Princess than there is in, like, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Sure, there might not be as much to do in the world, as much extra stuff to go out of your way to explore and do, but there's still a good amount of it. Like, there's like mini games and stuff that you can go around and do, and all the pieces of art to collect and all that business. I just really miss that style of Zelda game because honestly, I think the dungeon aspect of Zelda is my favorite part of it. Like getting through the dungeons, exploring those, and getting through the puzzles. I think that's my favorite part of Zelda because the dungeons really create a certain atmosphere that the ones in Tears of the Kingdom kind of missed on, in my opinion. I really thought this would be a longer topic of conversation, but I guess when I'm talking alone and I don't have any rebuttals made at me, it's not as long as I anticipated. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and maybe I'll make another episode later down the line where I dispute them. No, where I maybe bring up some of your points and talk about them and talk about my feelings on them. I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. Like, I know there are other people who like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as a game, but they feel like it's not a good Zelda game and that they don't want Zelda to head in that direction for the rest of time. But, yeah, let me know your thoughts. This is a bit of a shorter episode, especially compared to last time, but maybe we need that. I know I need to go to bed soon, but I've got a lot to do tomorrow. So, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one next week. I hope you enjoyed your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, sleep well, whatever it is that you're doing. Goodbye. Peace out. See you all next time.